If you had pulled the chain then, I would be alive today.
Now, that chilling whisper, that's not from some movie. It's at the very heart of a story that sits at the terrifying crossroads of urban legend and real-life trauma. A story tied to one of India's most infamous haunted places. Today, we're going to dive into what really happened on the Begunkodar Express and explore why some scars, well, they never truly fade.
So to really get what happened on that train, you first have to understand the place where this whole nightmare kicked off, the Begunkodar railway station.
Yeah, for 41 years. Just try to wrap your head around that. For over 4 decades, this entire station was basically wiped off the map. No trains stopped, no staff dared to work there. It became a true ghost station, completely abandoned, all because of one single terrifying reason. And the local legend? Oh, it's incredibly specific, which is what makes it so chilling. The story goes that the spirit of a woman who was killed in a train accident now haunts these very tracks. For years, people have sworn they've seen a figure in a white sari relentlessly chasing trains that dare to pass through in the dead of night. All right, so now let's meet the people who are about to put this legend to the test. This is the story of Neha and her friends, whose fun trip would soon spiral into a desperate fight for survival. So you've got Neha and her friends, right? They're on their way to Nepal, totally pumped for this big adventure. And then they find out their train is running late, which means they'll be passing right through the infamous Begunkodar station, late at night for them. This was all just a big joke, you know? A little bit of morbid fun. They had no idea what was actually waiting for them in the dark. Now, her friend Radha, she was a bit more of a believer, and she's like, hey, maybe let's not mess with this. But Neha, nope. She was all bravado. She was absolutely determined to look out that window and see this legendary ghost with her own 2 eyes. And that curiosity, well, it turned out to be a terrible, terrible mistake. So as the train finally starts chugging towards that deserted station, you can just feel the mood change. All the laughter just stops. And that fun, adventurous vibe, it gets replaced by this creeping sense of dread. And then, right as their carriage is passing the platform, a voice just screams out of the darkness, "Stop the train! Pull the chain!" Neha peeks out the emergency window, and there she is. A woman in a torn white sari, her hands all mangled and bloody, and she's running alongside the moving train. Neha, totally horrified, just slams the window shut. Okay, so they're completely shaken up, right? They try to rationalize it. Oh, maybe it was just a local trying to hop on the train. But their nightmare, oh, it was just getting started. Because at the very next stop, a single passenger gets on. Just a seemingly harmless old woman who comes and sits right there in their compartment. Later that night, Neha wakes up with a start. And she sees the old woman just sitting there, staring right at her. Not sleeping, just staring. Wide, unblinking eyes. And then, the woman leans in close and whispers those bone-chilling words, revealing she was the very same spirit they'd seen chasing the train. And what happened next was just pure terror. In one single movement, something no old woman should be able to do, she leaps from the lower berth all the way up to where Neha is. She grabs Neha's hand and just sinks her teeth into it. I mean, with this inhuman strength, like she's trying to rip the flesh right off the bone. Neha lets out this blood-curdling scream. I mean, pure agony. But here's the truly terrifying part. Her friends, who are sleeping literally feet away from her, they don't even move. It's like they're under some kind of spell, completely lost in this deep, unnatural sleep. She was totally, utterly alone with this thing. She's pinned down. She's in absolute terror. She feels like this is it. Her life is ending. And in one last desperate act, she screams out a prayer, "Jai Bajrangbali." And that name, it was like a shockwave. It just shattered the spell. Radha and the others, they wake up instantly. Radha, who, thank goodness, always carried a little pouch of vibhuti, sacred ash, she sees what's happening and just throws it right at the creature. And this old woman just shrieks like she's been burned, scrambles to the door, and throws herself off the moving train, vanishing into the night. So the physical attack, it was over. But as Neha looked down at her hand, at this horrible wound, she just knew. The real haunting was only just beginning. And this timeline, it really shows you where the true horror of this story lies. Yeah, the physical wound was awful, of course, but it was everything that came after. The nightmares, the panic attacks, that constant feeling of being watched, being hunted. That's what really started to break her spirit. And regular medicine, it just wasn't helping.
So this is where things get really interesting. You have the doctors, on one hand, treating the physical and the psychological symptoms. But her family, they end up going to a spiritual healer, a Baba. And his take on it was, well, profound. He basically told them, the ghost isn't the problem anymore. The real thing that's tormenting her is her own fear. It's taken on a life of its own inside her mind.
So what's the moral of this whole story? I think it's a pretty stark warning, isn't it? Some legends, some places, they carry a heavy energy for a reason. And when you treat them like a joke, like some kind of dare, you might just unleash something you can't control. Neha's curiosity left her with a scar, all right? But one that went so much deeper than just her skin.
Which really leaves us with this final haunting question. A wound on your body, well, with time and medicine, it can heal. But a wound on your mind? A wound carved right into your soul? How do you even begin to fix that? And how long does it take for a ghost like that, the ghost of pure fear, to finally let you go?